member of the Lake Artists Society and exhibits there every year, much to our pleasure. You've been a member since 1995?
That sounds about right.
Yes. And her way of working is entirely different to the way I work, if you've seen any of my little demonstrations. And hopefully we'll all learn how to do it. Over to Liz.
Well, I'll do my best. I do, of course, know Marian's work and how beautifully meticulous it is. And but how I usually begin is, here I am with a blank sheet of paper and, if you like, an equally blank mind. But so I want to lose some of that blankness as fast as I can. So I'm going to paint you some oak leaves. I love oak, so I'm going to put some colour on it. These are what you might call non-staining colours. You'll see why presently, because I want to do quite a bit of lifting out. So I'm starting off with raw umber, which is quite a good colour for oak leaves, and perhaps a little bit of yellow ochre. So now let's vary this a little bit. A bit more raw umber. Perhaps some burnt sienna as well. Perhaps that's a rather red colour for this particular business, so good Windsor yellow. Right, let's spread. So, just to get something down. Right, so quick, tiny brush. And for the moment I'm going into different colours. I prefer, if possible, not to use black. So my favourite near black substitute is ultramarine and burnt sienna. You can get most of a winter out of ultramarine and burnt sienna if you really try. And here we go. This man's going to have me sitting down, whatever I do. I'll still lean forward, you know.
That's fabulous, thank you.
Is that okay?
Perfect.
Well, it may be, but when I get to the top of the paper, I'll stand up again. So if you look at the oak branch, you can see what's beginning to develop. Now, it is liberally beset with lichen. Yes? Yeah. Yes. Which is beautiful. And for that, I'm using Naples yellow, which is a slightly opaque colour. It's a strange yellow, creamy, white, quite positive, and just enough ultramarine to turn it lichen colour. And let's make it happen a little. Here's one of my favourite sheets. An old Stanley blade. You can shape your branch quite nicely with anything like this. I'm sounding very echoey, aren't I? So make it grow like an oak, and there you have quite a good texture. It does work particularly well with my mixture of ultramarine and burnt sienna. You can shove it around to produce quite a lot of interests. There we are.
Can you tell us what paper you're painting on?
Yes, it's Saunders Waterford, £140 weight, knot, and there's a piece on it. Yes, I brought that along so that you would know. It's a favourite of mine. It's not perfectly white. There are whiter papers, but for a subject that doesn't need bright white, say snowdrops, it does well enough. It's substantial enough not to suffer unduly from my method of working. And I stretch it, I drop it in the bath, bring it out again shortly, set it on a board as wet as can be, and apply the tape around the edges, as many weights as I can think of to the tape, and hope that it stays put. Leave it there flat till the next morning, and then it doesn't crinkle and go every which way, which things do sometimes when you're doing such a throw it at everything way of working as I do. Right. I wonder if that's dry enough to put any veins in yet. Probably not, but just right. Let's see if I can. Ooh, that's nice. Right, back to that. Because I'm trying to work quickly so that we can see what's, so I get something done for you. So I don't really want to leave things hanging around for all the time to dry. So, although it's got a fingerprint in it, well, you can see that it's beginning to turn into part of an oak leaf. Now I'll go back to that lichen, see how it's doing, and see if I can just join it up with the darker colour. There are those who would know what sort of lichen this is. I'm not one. I just know it's what grows on oak trees in Borrowdale, in the west of Scotland, a whole variety of places, and it does lovely colours. You find little yellow spots in it sometimes. I might put some of them in later when it's a bit drier. And let's see if I can get a few bits into the marks that I made with my Stanley knife trick, to suggest that it goes on various points along the little branch. There we are. This is a number 2 brush. This fact is utterly invisible because having fairly stiff hands, or at least stiffer than I would like, I always bind my brushes like this, so as to make them a little bit more chunky and easier to hold. So that's got string wound around it and then masking tape over the top just to give me a much better handhold. A tip if anybody's got stiff fingers and can't handle, because you get a tiny brush, the bristles, and they give you a tiny handle as well, and it isn't always good. So to return to the edges that I made, see if I can cut in under it. It's dry enough yet. So the oak leaf is beginning to emerge, however faintly. Just a little bit of an oak leaf there. And just steal a bit of the near black, just to tuck in under the edge to fetch out the emphasis. So we're getting an oak leaf, another one down here. As you can see, I'm not drawing a particular piece of the bit that I brought along the whole stack, but it's an idea of it. We could have an acorn. Very awesome. Yeah, I managed to find a few pieces which do actually have acorns on if I can turn them up in the direction that I can do. Okay. It's dry. Make space for an acorn. Some of these leaves have suggestions of green, and the trouble with green is it's a staining colour. I use Viridian, and you can't ever get it out. Whereas the earth colours I've used so far are easy to lift, as you see. Look at that. Scary, isn't it? So, even as it stands, I think I'll modify it with yellow ochre. Let's see where I can put a green leaf. Windsor yellow, that's really rather bright and lemony. Because there's nothing to say. A whole leaf is one colour, they're anything but. I don't know if this will work or not, but if I use the... I'll make something of it presently. The back of the brush. Let's see if I can just draw some veins on. Don't know. And paint goes into the marks I'm making on the paper and gives you the beginnings of the leaf. Now I want to get back to oak leaf number 2. Give it some veins as well. The centre line would be good. And try a little bit darker for the ones that are vanishing under the next leaf and see what happens. Okay. There is a small insect walking about on the paper. If it stays still for long enough, it'll get its portrait painted. Make the negative shape between that leaf and the next. This colour was previously the stalk, but it's there and it'll serve the purpose. Chuck a load of that in it as well, just to get the colour the same. Right, at the moment I'm just adding to my colour supply and putting extras of the colours that I've used so far, which are the raw umber, which was the background for the leaves, and the burnt sienna and ultramarine, which has so far done a piece of branch and may serve whatever other purpose by way of shadowing that I like as I go on. Now, more leaves over the top here, including this one that I think I made rather a mess of when I was beginning, so I'll just curve it in. That looks better already. Cut in like that. So I've got the beginnings of the leaf here. Just might curl that one up a bit. Shout at me if I'm not speaking loudly enough. I might hear you. My hearing isn't perfect neither. Make an acorn of it. A particularly nice bit, of course, is the acorn cup. They're gorgeous. There's a hint of the same sort of colour that I've used for the lichen. So add to that some more umber to make it flow, and give me acorn a cup. Like that. And then see if I can. I don't think it'll go yet, I think it's too damp. Take a little bit of the spare paint out. A bit more alternative technology to get the acorn cup out. Not entirely satisfactory. I think I need slightly darker.
Was that the other end of your brush?
It was, yes. Yes. I turned the brush round and used the other end just to tap out the little details on the acorn cup. It didn't work entirely satisfactorily because I don't think I had my paint dark enough, so I'm going to give it another go with a little more conviction and dark paint. Right, see what happens this time. Come on. I don't want to do much more for fear of making holes in the paper. Right, I'm going to leave it like that for now. Do the other acorn. I'm trying with green and burnt sienna. Lay on the cup area. I'll go away and do something else for a minute while it dries. Right, return to all the chaos I'm making over here with occasional finger marks and the like. And make them into something too. A spare piece of oak leaf, for instance. That's really going to be dark behind this, so let's see if I can do it. Bring it in and so as you see, I haven't drawn anything yet. I seldom do. It's coming.
Do you use a softer brush for the taking out process?
It isn't really very soft, no. It has to have a certain firmness, otherwise nothing comes.
Right.
Yes, it can be done, but you forever, if it's a little brush, such as my other favourite one, you have to wipe it every half stroke or anything because it gets charged full of paint,
Right.
which is not particularly good. So, yeah, what was I doing now? I've forgotten. Taking out. Right, so lots of tissues. Wipe it up and see if I can pull the paint out down here. And if you don't pull it out right to the edge, you get left with something like a line. Right, now, I wonder if I can draw a line with this. Take some doing, because it's the edge of the brush, so it has to go in the right direction all the time. There we are. Now, see if I can do a vein with that. At this angle, I doubt if I can, but I'll try. There we are. It has to be just the right degree, which takes some finding, of damp, and both on the brush and in the paper. So it's always a bit experimental. Did I say on the brush and in the paper? I probably meant those the other way around. Lift that out like that. My spinal opportunity. A space. As I had fortuitously left a little hole in the undergrowth there. I'm just using it to make a slightly brighter green. There we are.
Do you always use pans and never cubes?
Sorry?
Do you always use your colour in the pans rather than the tubes, or do you have tubes at home?
I tend to use a pan, for no particular reason except that I started off that way with this battered and well-travelled paint box, and so I just continue reloading it, and mostly I do use pans, but I have my colours and I tend to know what they do, and stick with much the same range for most of the time. But yes, I think I do mostly use pans, but I have absolutely nothing against tubes, you know, if I was doing something larger. But I suppose it's just what you're used to.